Mr. Tonko, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are some 3 years into the worst recession since the Great Depression. I've heard repeated claims that these are times that call for courageous leadership and bold decisions. Well, there certainly has been no lack of audacity during recent talks on the budget. I'm joining my colleagues on the Budget Committee here today to ask, on behalf of my constituents in New York's 21st Congressional District, for less hubris and more humility from some of our nation's leaders as we attempt to solve a problem that impacts the lives and livelihoods of our families, our friends, our neighbors, and our constituents. I have but 2 requests. First, that any budget agreement must not hurt our economy further. In 2008, the financial crisis brought this nation to its knees. It was a crisis of our own making, and though we must not dwell on blame, we must learn from experience to avoid the mistakes of the past. Is there no way to encourage business growth, small and large, without wasting $130 billion a year on tax giveaways and without gutting programs that educate our workforce? I refuse to believe that there is no smart solution to this problem. My constituents refuse to believe it. We learned our lesson, and we know better. Second, any budget agreement must take a balanced approach. It is the height of arrogance to sit down at a negotiating table to solve a fiscal crisis and declare an $800 billion question off limits. Federal government subsidies for some of the most profitable corporations on earth, oil tax breaks that trace their roots to policy decisions made nearly 100 years ago, must be on the table. Tax breaks for the wealthiest 2% of America must be on the table. Tax earmarks for corporate jets, for snow globes, for golf bags. These must be on the table. America is watching. America is waiting for us to wake up, eat our Wheaties, and flex the powerful muscle of human reason to get this country on a sustainable path. Sustainability means cutting spending where it is not needed and where it offers no common good. It means cutting tax kickbacks where they are not needed. It means protecting the present and future of Medicare in a form that provides more than a coupon to our seniors and more than an unsympathetic so be it to proud men and women who lost their jobs through no fault of their own. It means knowing that the big 5 oil companies can stand on their own 2 feet. It means playing for the same team, putting everything on the table, and winning this one not for our campaigns, but for our constituents. If I might refer to this chart using data from OMB and the Ways and Means Committee, my Republican colleagues have shown the so-called courage to ask yet another great sacrifice for their country by giving up their hard-earned, guaranteed Medicare benefits in favor of a voucher. This will lead to thousands of dollars in new out-of-pocket expenses each year. Certainly, the $165 billion in cuts is rivaled by the $131 billion yearly giveaways. That $165 billion per year question from the Republican budget that is on the table in these talks. I do not like it. I will not vote for it. I will fight it every time it comes to this floor for a vote. But it is on the table. It is being discussed and debated, fought for and against, in a process that makes our democracy run as it was intended to. But again, we will fight any cuts and any end to Medicare. But there's another line on this chart, and that's this $131 billion per year question of giving tax breaks to wealthy special interests. Look, the 2 of them are comparable. Giving oil companies more subsidies versus taking away Medicare. This is the question of using taxpayer-subsidized support from the federal government to add a few extra billion to the Herculean profits of some of the world's wealthiest corporations. The big 5 oil companies have pocketed almost $1 trillion in profits in the past 10 years. In the midst of our recession, they are doing just fine. They have told us, and I quote, "We don't need the tax breaks." So why would my colleague from Virginia, the Republican majority leader, declare that tax reform, like cutting the $20 billion in subsidies that these companies will receive in the next 10 years, is off the table? Why are tax write-off earmarks for corporate jets off the table? Why are hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires off the table? Why are we talking about cutting programs for nursing homes and preschools, for local cops and firefighters, for retirement security and the future of renewable energy? Why are we talking about cutting these programs without talking about asking the big five oil companies to stand there on their own 2 feet? I have watched programs that my constituents rely on end up utterly decimated on the floor of this House this year. And yet I come before you today not asking for less sacrifice, but for more. I'm asking for these at the top to bear their fair share of both the burden and the potential triumph of this historic moment. Again, I must merely ask for a little humility as we attempt to solve a challenge that no one woman or one man among us should attempt to tackle or scuttle alone. Nothing is off the table, and nothing is more important than getting every single American who wants to do a hard day's work for a fair wage back on the job site. Any budget agreement must take this balanced approach and must not hurt our economy further. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Chair recognizes